Ciao, today I will be cooking another Christmas idea and something that again you can do for Christmas Eve or indeed New Year's Eve. Or you know that time of the year between Christmas and New Year when you lose sight of the day of the week and time of the day. That is an ideal recipe as well because you can use any leftover vegetable you've got from Christmas, or if you like you can use some broccoli, which is what I'll be using today. I'll be making a strudel with sausages and broccoli, a salted strudel and some lovely melty cheese. And I'll start with the broccoli, and this is going to be a zero waste recipe. Actually, the only waste is going to be is here, the very end bit of the broccoli, which I will remove. And I'll show you how I make use of all of the broccoli, because I will be making a minestrone with some of the leftover, and there will be another video at the end of this video if you want to make the same minestrone I'll be making. But for the purpose of the strudel, I will only need the florets, so I'm removing the little trees, as my children used to call them when they were little. And I'll keep these and I'll show you later what I do at the end of this recipe. And I'll chop these in relatively small pieces, as they will be blanched in some hot boiling water in a moment. A good teaspoon of salt in the water. I've washed the broccoli under running water and I'll add it in now. And I will leave it to boil for about 7 to 8 minutes. Olive oil in a frying pan. 1 clove of garlic, medium size will be good enough. And I'll peel the skin off first. And I'll chop these in little pieces. And in goes with the oil. These are chili flakes, so quantities to taste, but don't go mad, but also don't be too mean. And I will actually supplement my chili flakes with some fresh chili. This is from Julie's Garden, and this is actually mild anyway. And as it is mild, I'm going to leave all of the seeds inside. So I'll chop it in little pieces similar size to the garlic, and I will add it as well. A couple of sausages. I'm removing the skin from the outside, and these are chili and fennel. They are some of our favorite, but you can use any choice of sausages you like. Can be Cumberland or just plain sausages, entirely up to you. These are what we have in the freezer, and as it happens, they are something that both Julie and I absolutely love. Anyway, remove the skin like this, and I will add them as well. Just break them with your hands. It doesn't matter how big or small you do them, as they will be fried in a moment and they will reduce anyway. In the meantime, my broccoli are blanched, so I will drain them using a strainer here, but as I said, I will be making minestrone, so I will keep the water as it's vegetable water and it's ideal for minestrone. Perfectly aligned with my zero waste meal. And I'll leave these to cool down a little. I'm back on the hob and I'm now frying my sausages with my garlic, chili pepper and chili flakes. And within a couple of minutes I'll add my broccoli. I'll turn this down, otherwise you won't be able to hear me properly. And I'll mix everything together, and I want to break the broccoli so that they become just as small as the sausages. I mentioned cheesy at the beginning, so this is Edam, and I want about 150 grams, so I'll start with this slice to see how much it weighs. Okay, 90, another 60 grams. Let's have a look. That will do, 143, close enough. You can use also cheddar, or you can use mozzarella if you like. If you do use mozzarella though, make sure that you use the same mozzarella that you use when you're making pizza. Try and avoid the very watery stuff, because that will go inside the strudel and you don't want too much water to come out. But if you do use Edam, make sure that you remove the outside skin like this, especially this yellow one, so that you don't find it in your teeth later. Also, another cheese you could use is Gouda. You can use any cheese that goes nice and stringy once it's really hot. And I'll go along and chop these into little cubes, just like this, about 1 centimeter each cube. And I'll put it on one side ready for later. In the meantime, this has been merrily sizzling. I'll turn it down, it's too loud. And it's nearly ready actually. That's perfect. I will remove it from the heat now and I'll leave it to cool down for a few minutes. In the meantime, I will get my puff pastry ready. This is a roll which we actually bought last year and has been in the freezer ever since. Whenever we find food that is suitable for freezing and is reduced in price, we buy it and it goes in the freezer and save money. Also, I think that puff pastries is one amazing invention. It is very, very easy to use and it gives you immediate and incredible results. Do you agree? Baking paper, this will help us when we fold it. And make sure that you keep your puff pastry in the fridge until the very last moment so that it is cold when you're working with it. My broccoli and the sausage has cooled down and I will add the cheese next. And I'll mix everything together, but as the broccoli has cooled down slightly, it will not melt the cheese at this stage. And I'll place it on top of my puff pastry next. And I'm going back with my spoon to ensure that it's neatly put together and also go a good amount of space across the edges. And this is when the baking paper come handy. I will use that to help me fold it. So I'll go and do one side first. Pull it back. And do the same on the other side. And if, like me, you're finding that there is a little bit too much filling, just push it back with your fingers first. And you can also stretch the puff pastry, but don't go mad, otherwise I'll split. But let's see how it goes. That is pretty good. And I'll do the same with the sides. If, like me, you got the odd little hole, just go along and patch it using some of the surplus pastry. I want this to be the base, so I'm going to flip it back and pull the paper back. Perfect. And I'm now applying some egg wash on top of my strudel. Make sure you also do the edges as well and the sides. I'll get hold of a little toothpick next. And I'll start scoring some lines across the surface. Make sure that you're gentle, you do not pierce it like I've done here. I don't think it'll be a problem, but just very gently, just mark it and that will give the strudel a lovely effect at the end. I'll remove now the excess paper as I do not need all of it. Baking tin, and I'll transfer my strudel using a little baking paper at the bottom inside the tin. And it is ready to go in the oven. Temperature 180 degrees is a fan assisted oven. If you've got a normal conventional oven, up in by 20 degrees to 200. Cooking time about 20 to 25 minutes until you get a lovely golden crust on the top. So I'll see you then. And we're ready, and guess what? Julie's joined me.
Yeah.
She's impeccable.
There's pastry.
Look at this, Julie.
Ooh, it looks so lovely. We don't actually eat tons of pastry, do we? It's not something we eat all the time at all. Well, except today, because I made mince pies earlier.
No, but when we do,
we go for it large.
Okay, it's ready, and I'll just give it a couple of minutes to cool down because it's piping hot, and then we can have a look to see what it looks like inside. I'm now loosening it up, and it's looking good. Perfect. So, helped by the baking paper, I'll move into a chopping board. I've got a spatula underneath, so I'll gently lift it and remove the baking paper. And there it is.
Beautiful. Too lovely to eat, in fact.
Shall we go diagonally? What do you think, Julie?
I think that would be a good idea, Marv. Yeah.
If you have this cold, when you slice it's going to be easier, but you can see actually it's doing really well anyway. Look at this.
Sounds lovely, doesn't it? So crispy.
Let's have a look at the inside now. Oh, it's looking great. Look at that. By the way, if you're vegetarian, you can still make this. Drop the sausages and keep the cheese, but replace the sausages with some Stilton. Because Stilton and broccoli together, they are incredibly flavorful, and then you have a vegetarian version but also incredibly delicious. I think I'll make that as well, not necessarily in the channel, but something that I'll make eventually, because I'm sure that it'll taste delicious. A bit like the broccoli and Stilton soup. Wonderful.
It's one of my favourite soups, actually.
And as it is Christmas, I'll move it into a lovely Christmas tray there. And if you wanted to impress your guests, just put one piece on top of the other like this. So
And then you can
get to
see all the lovely cheese oozing out.
Oozing, a new word. Normally I'm the one making up words.
Sorry about that.
Wonderful. You can slice this into individual pieces, and you can have some hot tonight. We're going to have some hot now, and then tomorrow we will have some cold, maybe for lunch. Or you can also freeze it if you want. If you freeze it though, freeze it before you bake it, and then you let it out to defrost until it's completely defrosted, and then you put it in the oven so that give you the best result. Oh, look at all the cheese. It's absolutely delicious, honestly. The sausages and the broccoli combined with the pastry, delizioso. Make it, you will really love it. And also you can have it cold, as I said. We will have some tomorrow, of course. So that's the end of this video. If you want to hang on and stay and watch how I do the minestrone, please do so, and we can have a go at that as well. Otherwise, see you later. And time to move on to the minestrone now. And ironically, I'm a little bit more excited about the minestrone than the strudel. But I have washed the trunk, if I can call it trunk, and I'm chopping it, stem, yes, I'm chopping it into little pieces now. And by the way, as I chop all of my ingredients, I'll try and do them all of a similar size. I'm not sure if I said if I washed it or not, but I've washed it and I'm now chopping into little 1/2 centimeter cubes, just like this. Including the skin on the stem, as I said before, zero waste. As long as you wash it, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it's a shame because lots of people throw it away. I actually eat it raw. It's delicious. And I'll use the same pot I used earlier, and still there is some residues from my broccoli, and I will move my stem inside it. I went in the fridge to see what I could find, and this is a half courgette or zucchini. I've had better days, but if you look inside, I removed the outside bit. It's still very good, and I'm quite happy to use it. But I will remove just the bun here, and I will chop it into little slices, again 1/2 centimeter thick. Make some little soldiers, and off I go with my cubes. And in it goes. Carrot, again, I'm not going to remove the skin, I'll leave as it is, but I'll chop the bum and a little bit of the head.
And he's had a scrub, hasn't he?
He's had a very good scrub, and again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the skin of the carrot. As long as it's clean, you can use it, and adds considerable more fiber. Same again, little soldiers, and off I go into little cubes. Add to the rest. Small onion, or you could use half a large onion, red, white, doesn't really matter. I've got these ones, the last of Julie's vegetable patch, so I decided to use one of these today. But no, I'm not going to be using the onion peel. I will be removing that, but I will do exactly the same as I did with the other vegetables. So I'll chop it in little pieces. And voila. I like to beef up, if I can use that word, my minestrone with beans. And I'm going to be using some canned cannellini beans. And I will actually show you something that maybe you have not done before, because a lot of people actually drain the water, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with the water. So as they are, I'll just add it to the minestrone. And the water from the cannellini beans adds a considerable amount of flavor. Just try it once and you'll see what I mean. Do not need to wash them because they are in water. Unfortunately, we have run out of Julie's homegrown peas, so we're using frozen peas from the supermarket. But I'm using the can from the cannellini to give me an idea of how much to use, and I'll do 3/4 like this. Perfect. So in terms of net weight, very similar to the cannellini. And be careful because they go stuck to the bottom. There you go, in they go.
Still got some in there. Blimey, somebody's noisy today.
This is chard. Again, adds a lovely flavor to the minestrone, but also fiber, and about 100 grams in weight is what I'm chopping.
Amazingly, he's been out in our freezing cold garden to pick this earlier.
Yes, dedication.
Yeah.
And in it goes.
What are you putting in now?
This is bicarbonate of soda. I will add 1 teaspoon, and the reason why I'm doing that is to make sure that my greens stay green, so they will give a lovely vibrant color. I'm making a fairly large batch. When I make minestrone, I make a lot, and I then have it as a lunch every lunchtime, especially when it's so cold. But I will not be adding any pasta today, but towards the end of the video I'll give you some options. And my very last ingredient for now is potato. These are a couple of medium-sized potatoes. Again, in the same vein as everything else, I've left the skin on, but if you don't want the skin on any of the vegetables, by all means remove it. I like it, so I'm leaving it in there. Having made my little soldiers, I'm now going to make some cubes. 1/2 centimeter in size, or thereabout. Did I say it was my last ingredient? Mm-hmm. I did?
You did.
There's one more. And I'll add them to my pot. And I have to apologize, as there is one more ingredient, which actually in minestrone terms is a very, very key ingredient. You could do without some of the others, but not without celery. So I'm going to get it. I nearly forgot. And in thing with everything else, actually, this is the last. So I'll just remove the bottom. I'll go and give it a quick wash, and then we'll put it in. Make sure that you remove the string bits, otherwise they are really annoying when you're eating your minestrone. This big one, I'll chop it in half lengthwise, and the rest I'll leave them as they are. And you'll have noticed that I'm leaving also the leaf. Again, nothing wrong with that. Can go in as well. And I promise, this is for now the very last ingredient.
Dare I ask, what about the mushrooms?
No, they go later.
Ah.
And of course, ensure that the pot you use is big enough to hold all of your ingredients. Remember the vegetable stock I kept when I did the broccoli earlier? A couple of liters. It's lukewarm now, so it can go in anyway. So I will add it all to my vegetables. Ready to go in the hob, and the overall cooking time will be about half an hour, but there will be a couple of more ingredients to go in, but not until later, but I'll show you that. So the minestrone has been boiling for a good 15 minutes, and this is a good time to add some tomato. This is tomato puree, 1 tablespoon. The sweetness of the other ingredients will be contrasted by the acidity of the tomato puree, and that will provide the minestrone lovely balance. You do not have to use tomato puree, by the way. You can use also tomatoes, tinned tomatoes, but if you were to use tinned tomatoes, ensure that you do not use more than maybe a couple of 100 grams, because you don't want the tomatoes to take over. And also I'll be adding a few mushrooms. These are 5 mushrooms which I've sliced, and they can go in. And the last ingredient is a little secret, which is not a secret really, it's widely done in Italy. This is the crust or the rind from Parmesan. When I finish my Parmesan, I chop it up, and then I clean the back, and I put it in the freezer in a plastic bag, and then I'll use it when I do things like this. And just add it to the mix. And that will really enhance the flavor of your minestrone. And I will leave everything now to cook for another 15, that is 15 minutes, and then it will be ready. So from beginning of water boiling up until the end, 30 minutes. And then we can also add some olive oil, but at the end. So I'll see you in 15. In 15 minutes on, it's ready. Look, it's reduced in volume, and it's looking absolutely wonderful. And
It smells gorgeous.
Yes. I mentioned pasta earlier. I'm not going to be adding any pasta as we go strudel for dinner tonight. But let me show you what I would use. So this is a macaroni, which you can buy in the UK from any supermarket. These are di talloni and ditellini. They are very similar to macaroni. If you look, the ditellini, it's actually about 1/3 the size of a macaroni. And this is a di talloni, which is like the daddy of the ditellini. You might find them in some supermarkets, maybe some of the more continental specialized supermarkets, but you can use macaroni, no problem at all. Or you can also use short pasta like shells, and you can add it straight into the minestrone as it is. You do not have to cook it separately, but obviously make sure you don't put too much, otherwise it will absorb a lot of water. There is another option, and that is the good old spaghetti.
Oh yes,
And,
I like this
which
one.
is actually something that my mum used to do in Italy all the time. What you do, you just break it up into small pieces, and you can add to your minestrone. Again, cook it straight in the pan with the rest of the vegetables. Delicious. But we will not be doing that. I will show you now what it looks like once I serve it. So, here we go. I'll do a little portion, and I like to start always with all of the vegetables first, so that then I can add as much liquid as I want, and then I'll top it up with some of the liquid. This way you can adjust it to your liking. The Parmesan rind, by the way, is buried somewhere there. It's delicious. You can chop into little pieces and put it in the minestrone, and then you'll find little pieces as you go along, or you can eat it whole. Entirely up to you. In my case, I will chop it eventually in little pieces, and then I will mix it with everything else. And this will go in the fridge, and tomorrow, the day after, every lunchtime I'll put some in the microwave, and lunch sorted. But before I finish, I like also a little of the real thing. So I'll sprinkle a little Parmesan on top, not a lot, just a little. And this is absolutely compulsory. This is not optional. If you make minestrone, you have to put some olive oil. I didn't put any olive oil at all during the whole process at the end. So just some at the very, very top, like so. And it will give your minestrone such a lovely flavor. It will balance everything else. And this will be our starter before the strudel. And I know it's not necessarily Christmas food, but those days between Christmas and New Year, not bad actually. A little bit of a detox if you want. But it's going to be cold, so it'll keep you warm. It's cold here today. Delicious, genuinely delicious, and all of the ingredients were fresh, some were frozen, but genuinely lovely. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you make either these or the strudel, do let me know. And if you need any help or you've got any questions, just message me. You know, I reply to everybody, and I will be delighted to help. Arrivederci, grazie, buon appetito, and ciao ciao.